Picture this. It's 1950-something and the new rock on the market is called the Amber. It's all the rage, but the only contact you have is to spy yourself as a mob boss located in Spain that can't stop dancing. A king of suave, some might even say. You catch wind that he's been captured, and that's why the flow of amber has dropped significantly. And your higher contact is insisting that you get more. So, naturally, you put on a disguise to save the man and get your prize. After saving him, you reveal that you're actually in a second undercover disguise. He's so impressed he hugs you, and you give him his favorite smoke for the kind gesture. Of course, the pinstripe suit-wearing mob boss hid the amber before being captured to keep it away from the obvious competitors. As we move to find it, an opposing gang's cloaked bodyguard slowly approaches, causing us to separate from the mob boss Luis Serra. Fortunately, you're a professional and brought plenty of weapons, unloading on the monster and throwing grenades until suddenly he multiplies. You can't believe your eyes, but you know it's true, and all you can do is continue to blast away until you deter the bouncer away for now. But your professionalism can't help but tell you that this isn't over yet. You get a call from the sun-glassed night man you call your client. You don't know why he wants amber, and you don't really care. This rock is going to make you rich, and you're going to finally settle down on a farm in Montana, far away from these monsters running the underworld. You fight through the castle battlements, stealthily assassinating grunts in your path and finding the holy grail of weapons on the way. The grapple hook you brought works just fine, and you make somewhat of an explosive exit, to say the least, ending your first chapter and starting your search for Luis Serra once again. Okay, I'm not going to keep the whole black and white filter things going for the whole video, but I think that was a good way to get us all into character. Recently I posted a video of achieving a S+ rank in the main game of Resident Evil 4 without using any special weapons in our arsenal, and it only felt natural to tackle the coveted Separate Ways DLC next. We're going undercover as Ada Wong, and just like Leon, we won't be using a single special weapon on this professional playthrough of the story while achieving the coveted S+ rank. For Separate Ways, this means we will have to complete the entire story in 2.5 hours or less with a maximum of 10 saves. I didn't go into this with a save plan, but we will be mentioning each save as we go along. The save count is pretty generous for this game mode, honestly, and we did save at the end of Chapter 1. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and as always, I stream these live on Twitch at twitch.tv/jeeps_, and also here on YouTube these days. If you're looking for a more in-depth walkthrough, the full video of this run will also be up on my second channel, jeeps_2, for those that want to follow these strategies much more closely. Anyways, we've already sort of hit the rubber to the road on this one, so let's cut this intro short and sneak our way into Chapter 2. We start off our trip to the church on a high balcony with some enemies to be assassinated. There's 3 total as we cross, and once we drop down, we use a sniper for a quick headshot on the last roamer. I like to pick everything up here, minus the green herb, behind the tripwire before crossing a certain threshold that triggers an onslaught of enemies, including a brute through the door. We head up and around in order to crouch under the tripwire and collect the aforementioned green herb and let the enemies do the work for us. In the next room, we have another brute that turns the corner and plenty of enemies highly aggravated at us. So expect to take some sort of damage as you run through here, honestly. We use our trusty grapple hook to reach the next area, which is familiarly the cabin. Stealth assassinations are a huge friend of ours in Separate Ways, especially as we're starting out and preparing/upgrading our inventory. We wait for the enemies in front of the door to line up just right and shoot the explosive barrel, then make a beeline for the door, preparing for any weird way this shovel guy could present himself to us. We trot across the ridge, crouching to dodge a long swing from the brute and dodge the crossbow lady any way possible. Honestly, you can just pop a shot at her, and most of the time you won't take any damage before ziplining all the way up the windmill and catching a glimpse of what seems to be a catboy, lifeguard, femboy looking person. Considering the hallucinations from earlier, we chalk it off as another reason to see a shrink after this for now and find ourselves on a rickety cliffside. This part seems to be all about showing off the grappling hook and some more stealth kills. We pull out the rifle for a long shot on the lady at the top and then immediately forget the puzzle we already know until we just remember it magically and head through, grappling a nearby tree to find the church. We're in a rush to get a hold of the amber, so we run straight to the door that automatically triggers the cutscene and despawns the enemies. Luis is a no-show, and the client says his tracker has gone dead in a different part of the village. On the way out from the church, we get a first-hand look at the effects of the amber here in Spain. Nothing but mindless zombies that we can walk right past, and they don't even flinch. Is this really something we want to hand off to our client to shake the world with? We have this moral crisis in front of a mysterious man who sells us guns. Well, at least he will. For now, we decide to do the usual repair strategy and upgrade the weapons we have already to keep it light, of course. We collect the residual items in the next cabin-like building and find out the cloaked bodyguard had been stalking us this whole time just like we had thought, and we have to fight it. He took us down a couple times, resulting in us redoing the chapter, but ultimately we land on top like snow, The bodyguard hasn't raised his skills much, it seems, so his intake of the amber must be the same, if not less. The fight goes the same as last time until suddenly we do enough damage to him to make him scream a second time and shove a dose of amber down his throat, causing not only 2 hallucinations of him to appear, but for them to protect him. The bodyguard has bodyguards. We get the sense we might not be that crazy anymore and fend off the true bodyguard after vigorously dodging his counterparts. We raise our gun to finish him off like the professional we are, but for some reason, we can't do it, and he gets away like an injured animal for now. We take the time to loot the now empty village for some of the precious treasures and resources, then head to the village chief's home. Turns out we can finally prove to ourselves we're not crazy because the catboy lifeguard femboy was real, and he was getting choked out right in front of us. Being the self-respecting professional spy we are, we decide to save him and disappear up above to start chapter 3. We enter through the window of the now empty village chief's home and start exploring. We hope to find some sort of clue to Luis Serra's whereabouts. We head downstairs and knock a picture off of the wall to find a key hidden behind. We can use this key on a drawer located upstairs in the same bedroom we started in, and we can find a note leading us to our suave dealer. Or at least possibly. Upon exiting, it seems the village chief is more than a bit upset with us, and our only real option right now is to run. We glide past enemies and grapple our way into the next area. We're right outside Red Mist Valley now, and waste no time to head inside and start stealth killing enemies. One of which that has a very familiar jacket on. We locate some of Luis's remnants using our super cool secret professional spy gear, and his footprints lead us to his favorite pack of smokes, and more importantly, the frequency for his radio. He tells us to meet him at the large cabin we traveled through earlier, and of course on our way out we are met with huge resistance, or at least you'd think. The enemies might poke at you, and we had a huge inventory crisis over the bowgun for a hot minute there, but when it comes to the 2 chainsaw enemies here with us, they're no problem. We can literally just run up to the valve wheel controlling the steam blocking the exit and turn it. Literally most of the time the chainsaw enemy will just kind of blow past you, and as you finish you can immediately turn off to the right to close out the section, waking up at square one with sunglasses at nighttime staring at us. The client is a bit upset with our performance, but we're like super hot and undercover and professional, so we take it with a grain of salt and answer a call from Luis once again. He was actually concerned about us, which is, nice. We travel through the village, encountering our first plaga enemies. These guys are pretty tedious, so I suggest just taking them out, because they will follow you into the village proper and get in the way of the shopping spree we're about to have. And by shopping spree, I mean upgrade the rifle as much as possible. Skirting through the farm area is easy enough, and the next thing we know, we get to see the live effects of being a pinstriped mob boss with the Ember. A huge roadblock gets in our way though, and of course, we need to keep this guy off Luis, and away from the Catboy guy. El Gigante is a battle of attrition for sure, and boy oh boy is he beefy in separate ways. We use the rooftops to our advantage and expose the Plaga in his back as quickly as possible, then shooting it directly as much as possible with the upgraded sniper rifle. We ended up losing all of the buildings and almost getting rid of all the extra fodder in the room even before the giant beast fell. We used a large bit of our resources in this fight to protect our vendor, and it didn't show for much, as he doesn't even have the product anymore, and now he wants to take some kind of detour in the castle to his lab of sorts. Chapter 4 starts us off in the castle yet again. We need to follow Luis down the ever-evolving spiral until some enemies try to get in our way. We kind of just let Luis handle them since we've been doing so much for him lately, and head down the stairs. Turns out Luis's lab is on fire completely, and he goes into a frenzy trying to retrieve what we came for. Luis seems to have grown fond of the Catboy and sees he's been exposed to the Ember. And so have we, apparently. He had some sort of medication here in the now burning lab to stave off our desires, but we have to pull him out. Fortunately, we convince him that he can just make some more because he's a super smart mob boss. But he will be sending us after the ingredients. Just another peon once again. We go our separate ways. He said it! He said it! And begin our search. We start off by assassinating 2 easily accessible enemies and then collecting some lithographic stones for a quick puzzle at the end of the line. We're on the other end of a familiar room and have to shoot some shields in a certain order to open up a drawer containing some red ink, our first ingredient. We have a tense encounter with the lifeguard at this station because he might have a crush on us or something, but we don't have time for that right now. We zip across into the next area where our blacktail pistol is going to be quite of the use. We have to shoot the corresponding medallions with animals with the gates until they're all open and we can collect the Crimson Lantern. Of course, our instincts say this is a trap, and it was. So we literally just do the same thing back, except this time we escape with our grapple, something the enemy obviously didn't plan for us to have. We place the lantern and head into the shiny new corridor. There's a super free and easily forgettable treasure here we grab before heading down the hall and grabbing the silver bottle. Good thing we're not scared of the dark because the lights cut off and nights come on. On the way out, we stop and shoot a couple times around here because it makes me feel like the night moves differently and we can place a silver bottle and escape without actually getting hit. Next is a room that's a real pain. As soon as we collect the golden bottle we need, the walls come to life. The strategy that ended up working the best was to use the TMP here because it absolutely shreds in separate ways and knocks the knights to their knees easily. The first knight gets the rifle treatment, and then a second comes off the wall, and at this point archers rush in. The archers are the main enemy, but speed is of essence here. If the archers really get in the way, the shotgun up close is a good counter. We use the TMP to rip open the two knights and then flash them once done. Now we have 3 bursting through the walls, but this actually makes things kind of easier because now we can use the wall to hide from the archers. Using the TMP, kick, and flash strategy, we can take out all the knights and harness any sweet revenge we may need for the archers. We play a little ring around the rosy with the bottles and ultimately leave the area with the gold bottle, our second ingredient. The maze is our last real obstacle before the final ingredient. A red zealot runs off with the moonstone needed to exit and we have to chase him down. I tried to just absolutely spam him with some grenades in the shotgun, but he still ended up somehow getting away, so we had to chase after him and eventually take him out for the moonstone. Fortunately, our path out of the maze was completely clear and we zipped up and out without a problem. In the following battlements area, we hear a familiar screech from the wind. Zombies.
That sound. That's right. I still have some unfinished business to take care of.
The bodyguard is back for more. We trundle through the battlements area, collecting some free treasure and entering a showroom of sorts. We conveniently already know the combination to the lock, so once that's open, we acquire the blue butterfly, the final ingredient. Turns out the bit of amber we had has literally erased our face. But the mob boss is here for us, and he starts to make his medication, but we sense the bodyguard just before he shows up. Luis carries us off, and ultimately, we go our separate ways.
He said it! He said it!
Once again into Chapter 5. We start Chapter 5 alone, unafraid, and unsurprisingly in need of finding Luis again. We have some footsteps of his that we can follow through the castle to start us off. We stealthily eliminate an Ink Master contestant and set ourselves on fire before dropping down a ladder and finding some not so subtle directions from Luis. We grapple down like Spider-Man and find some oh-so-familiar nests. Now we're in the waterway, and the first thing we manage is this cheeky shot to let us skip running all the way around. The enemies here are still really aggressive though, and catch up to us as we're turning the valve to lower the water. They remain hot on our tail, but we're able to grab the treasure and drop down below into the water. There's novice hidden here, and as we make our way through, it's safer to shoot the 2 of them here and then quickly grab the free treasure before crouching down and entering the tunnels. We pick up the Lord of the Waterway that ultimately causes us a minor inventory crisis later, but for now we have a couple more bugs to move past before crouching our way out of the waterway. Coming up is a section that I knew was going to be a complete nightmare, and thanks to our weird affinity to fish, we couldn't pick up as many free goodies as we wanted. On the professional difficulty, there is not 1, but 2 Garradors trapped in this very small room that also fills with fodder. After our main game excursion, it seems we've become pros for real because we start the fight off with a rifle to the back of both plagas. Once the Garradors are active, it's all about taking advantage of your chances. The room is really small and claustrophobic, but for the most part, it seemed like we were dealing with the fodder more than anything. Each Garrador goes down with only 2 to 3 direct hits to the plaga with the sniper rifle, so once they're defeated, we collect our treasure and make our way to and up the elevator. This is where things get interesting, or a little slow moving, I guess. We decided to talk to the merchant and basically really do nothing at all, which was silly, and then save the game at the local typewriter. This is our first typewriter save of this playthrough, and it's a pretty handy one considering we grappled up to a scaffolding and the amber bodyguard raped its clothes off like SpongeBob right in front of us. We practically died instantly. Thankfully, we humbly made a save just outside and decide to rethink our tactics. We combine and sell the treasures we have and ultimately go for juicing up the shotgun, primarily for phase 1. It took us a few attempts to even topple the first phase, but once we did, the barrier was lifted, and we found ourselves at the second phase often. We use our bowgun for like the only time here as soon as the fight starts, as well as loot the boxes in between bolts. Whenever Passante keeps his distance, we use the sniper rifle, aiming for the head. The big thing here is being ready to dodge at any and all given moments. If Placenta staggers, take advantage of the melee opportunity, and the close quarters to pelt him with shotgun shells. The TMP is also good for close quarters, and eventually he will fall, and the bodyguard's phallic object will come to life and fight us. Whatever is in this amber stuff is crazy. Anyways, the goal is to keep our distance and be prepared to dodge once again. We slowly poke and prod at the monster that will occasionally scream and summon Novistadors. These go down super easily with the TMP and will grant you with drops mid-boss fight, making this phase easier in my opinion, but at the same time his bullshit charge attacks make it hard, okay? But we managed to defeat the Saints Row 3 secret item just by the skin of our teeth, and after like a solid hour. We continue through the cave only to get some very discerning words from our pinstripe suit wearing mob boss, Plug, and he tells us he's going to transfer his files to us. Once we can grapple up to the high ground, we see it. The dead king of Suave, Luis Serra, and none other than the catboy lifeguard femboy he ever so trusted. This sight can only mean one thing. The lifeguard is our competition, and wants the riches of the amber all to himself. In an understandable fit of rage, we run off into the castle battlements once again, where we make a save by the merchant that we really didn't need to make, but did mostly out of nerves. We stealth kill some enemies and pull a lever to activate the huge poundy things, and head for the exit. Usually these guys are pretty tedious, but we were able to make it through fairly easily, and once on the stairs outside we can throw a flash to pretty much get a free trip to the ladder. The lifeguard is fighting some short man, so we decide to head him off and ambush him down at the dock. The client calls us, but we don't have time for that, and a few enemies with the amber lean try to get in our way, but we squeeze past them. We beat the lifeguard to his own dock, and take a moment to reflect on what's happened. We calm down and decide maybe we can just talk it out with the lifeguard. You know, work together and betray him at the end kind of thing. We find the keys to the boat first, and turn into Spider-Man, surprising the lifeguard with a kind gesture from an undercover enemy. It turns out whatever files he sent us literally contained his Suave. We didn't even change clothes, we just magically became a noir detective on this boat with a lifeguard. We work out a deal with the guy to split the spoils on the Amber. I completely promise that's what we're talking about before we go our separate ways.
He said it! He said it!
As has been the trend, we will be heading through the island basically backwards and travel through the camp first and then the Amber storage facility. We need the pure Amber strand, you know, the good stuff, the pure stuff. None of this secondhand stuff. A bunch of enemies try to get in our way, but we're determined and make it down the elevator. Here we run past the first brute, we see and climb with the intention of flashing the second, but things went a little weird. Either way, we make it past the second brute and are in the laboratory area. We need to find an electrical plug to open our path forward, and we'll be dropping down into a familiar area to start. We traversed the lab, and I actually kind of forgot about this regenerator, and it did not jump scare me at all, so we moved past it swimmingly. From here, we find our plug of the electrical kind and pull it. Naturally, the power shuts off, and we have to traverse through the halls in the dark, with one fast-moving boy in our way. In the next hallway is one regenerator that's free to get past, but the Iron Maiden normally isn't. I don't know what I did to make him act this way, but he ran at us in such a perfect manner. We were able to slide past him like a greased-up deaf guy and even collect some items in the room before grappling up and placing our plug. We still end up having to crouch through, but at least we're now at everyone's favorite thrill ride. We hop on the gondola and prepare our sniper rifle, lining up good shots and paying particular attention to the rocket launcher wielding enemy that comes in. I was unnecessarily nervous for this part once again, because it ended up going pretty smoothly. At the bottom, we collect some spoils and chat with the merchant before committing to yet another typewriter save here, just before the machine gun montage. We try to focus some of the mini red lasers with our bowgun, but to no avail. So we drop in and take our sweet time moving from cover to cover until we can reach the grapple up area. We shoot the explosive barrel immediately and head right past to the first of two repositionable turrets. There's a dynamite throwing enemy here and we know it, so as we leave, we take a wide swing and unfortunately take a jab from an electric stick twice. Across the path and up the stairs, we turn the second turret and then immediately throw a flash grenade to give us a clear path to the long walkway that reminds me of an action movie I can't really think of right now, and Sonic for some reason. Anyways, we make it to the other side pretty harmlessly once again, clearing an often intense section of gameplay. Now we're in the comms facility. Oh yeah, the sunglasses at night client sent us here for some extra pay. All we have is a briefcase, we don't get paid to ask questions, and a lifeguard is out doing the legwork for us anyways. We find the landlocked version of Free Willy mixed with a muck and a horror filter who then chases us around for a bit, probably because of the names we just called him and his clear isolation from society, until we come up on some good old-fashioned lasers. After the sci-fi movie scene, we find where the briefcase needs to be and turn to make our exit. Willie doesn't seem to like his new nickname and starts to chase us, but we have lasers on our side and spy skills in our heart. The suave Luis handed us seems to have also given us the power of slow-motion badass cutscenes, particularly when running from danger, that we use to escape the facility once and for all. We hop on a jet ski that Sunglasses at Night client guy left for us and head into Chapter 7. We parked the jet ski in a conveniently placed spot that surely won't have any meaning later. We have to fight our way up, and the first room is full of enemies that we decided to just defeat from the start to save ourselves some headache. At the end of the path is a brute that doesn't take too well to headshots, and next thing we know, we're on the elevator up. There's a scaffolding area for us to fight through here, and we find a nice beret. Too bad it doesn't really fit the detective style we're going for here. We have one more group of enemies protecting the elevator up, and if you didn't know, most of the time these enemies can just be looking at the elevator and the switch becomes unpressable, which is what I thought we had managed to do here, but we somehow smoothly clear the way and make it up alive. Up top we run into the final merchant and move around some funds for a large purchase, and then head into the quiet rune-like area. There's a few bugs in the way for sure, but we find our lifeguard partner in a heap of trouble in no time. Some guy screaming religious chants or whatever is yelling at us, so we shoot him with a rocket. We have a lifeguard and an amber to retrieve after all. Anyways, we got tied up. The lifeguard heroically saves us and fights the old religious guy that's now like an amber strained spider. At this point we know for a fact we're not crazy anymore because like the lifeguard definitely sees that thing, right? We feel a hint of love for cat ears and the color red and decide we need to do something for the lifeguard. Fortunately, there's a typewriter we can use to achieve our 10th and final save, kind of just because we had an extra one and might as well use it kind of thing. We can see a special red rocket launcher in the distance, and it immediately becomes our goal. We have a plethora of enemies standing in our way, and most are extremely easy to just run right past, especially if you know where you're going and when to shoot a lock or explosive barrel. Making the shield guy trip is still one of my favorite parts of this whole DLC. Before we know it, we have the special red rocket launcher in our hands, and the Beach Boy is doing more parkour than Michael Scott on a Tuesday. A hentai monster and some bugs try to block our continued path forward, so we pop the eye and zap some bugs before throwing a flash at the enemies across. Oh my god, I think I'm gonna die. I don't think there's anything I can do about this. Yeah, direct hit. I saw it, and I was like, well, I'm dead. Can't do anything about that. He hit me directly. Wow. Anyways, after doing all that again, we take a bit more precious time with the rocket launcher enemies and make it to the other side. Flash grenades are your friend here. There's a tentacle and 3 sets of differently timed spawned enemies, and if even one touches the elevator, you're toast. At the top of the elevator, we encounter, you got the plug out of you and you changed clothes.
Leon needs help. Hurry.
Okay.
I'm on it.
Well, okay, maybe we are still hallucinating. Anyways, we do what the frog lady asked and throw the special red rocket launcher to the lifeguard, who gives a nice holy body to the religious guy. Then immediately betray him like we said we were going to. Seems like we've both developed some feelings on this adventure, but we have bills to pay. We offer for him to come with us, but like he says, we both know this is where we go our separate ways.
Oh no, not again.
We toss him the key to the jet ski and take off in our escape helicopter into the sunset. As we stare out into the sea, we think about the night we've had. We call up the Sunglasses at Night client and confirm just how much of the world he plans to ruin with this amber. I don't think that's something that we can live with, so we hijack the helicopter and decide to write our own story, filled with our own suave. We see that the lifeguard and the frog, I guess, made it, and finally the results screen shows sharing our S+ rank. And just like that, we've completed separate ways with a S+ rank without using any special weapons. Overall, it's a fun challenge most could probably knock out in one sitting, and definitely on the shorter side compared to what I usually do. I know the characters are corny, but I like playing with the mods and wanted to have some fun with it. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and also consider following me on Twitch as I stream there at twitch.tv/jeeps_, and also here on YouTube as well, if that's your thing. If you want a more in-depth, step-by-step playthrough to watch, the entire full playthrough of this run will be up on my second channel, Jeeps_2. I will literally have every chapter as a chapter on the full gameplay video. But for you, be sure to keep your spy skills sharp, because you just might be needing them again soon. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye.